Hello and welcome to episode 206 of the 77 Club. Harry, start with the socials.
Feels weird just being us two, mate.
Does it?
Yeah, as usual, Twitter at 77 Club Podcast, the Wall 77 Club, everywhere else. Just going to push YouTube again. We're getting close to 1,000, Sam. So if you haven't subscribed, which 50% of people who watch this are not subscribed according to the analytics, please hit subscribe and help us get there. And also Spotify, iTunes, and wherever else you listen to podcasts.
Salt and pepper, fish and chips, pick and mix, all good things come in twos, Harry, and it is just you and me this week. So yeah, Shiv is in the comments already. The gruesome twosome, completely agree. Right, I mean, where do we start? Because we hate those kickoff times on a Sunday anyway. I think we saw it as a potential 6-pointer, and that's what it turned out to be. Just the wrong way around. I mean, so Leicester come to Molineux, not in the best of form. Brendan Rodgers under a lot of pressure this season. They seem to be turning it around because they're beating the teams around them. They smashed Nottingham Forest and they smashed Wolves as well.
Yeah, well, we spoke last week, didn't we? And we were all doom and gloom. We had Tom on. He said we'd lose 3-0. I think I predicted a loss. You tongue-in-cheek said we'd win 5-0, but we knew it was an important game. It was similar to the field up to Forest, where it was a must-win for us, really, with the way things are going after losing to Palace as well. And I'll be honest, mate, first 8 minutes, we were flying at them. I thought, oh my God, like this is really good to see. This is what we need. But then as soon as Tielemans absolutely, I mean, the finish, it was unbelievable. It's one of them where you can't even criticize. Well, maybe you could criticize Johnny for the poor clearance, but when he just pings it top corner like that, you just got to take your hat off sometimes. And what do we know about Wolves this season? Every time we go a goal down, we just crumble. Mm-hmm. So as soon as that goal goes in, I just thought to myself, that's it. And yeah,
I think it's been like that, I think, for quite a long time, even back probably the back end of the Nuno era, even when that fight doesn't seem to be there anymore. It hasn't been there for a very long time. And like you say, I think their heads go down. And psychologically at the moment, when we scored as few goals as we have this season, it's an uphill struggle straight away because you're thinking, well, I don't even know if a draw's on the cards here.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, even towards the end of Nuno's reign, you still had a little suspicion that we'd show a bit more fight than what we do now. That's the worry for me. And as I say, some of the chances we had, that Pedence one, Costa had one like clear off the line, didn't he? So even though we were having these chances, I still didn't feel like we were going to score. It's bizarre. I think we ended up having 21 shots on the day to Leicester's 5.
Yeah,
they end up scoring 4
and 4 on target. Yeah, so
it's clinical, but at the same time, it was easy. It was easy because Johnny at right back had one of the worst games I've ever seen him have. He got absolutely tore apart for the Harvey Barnes goal. Like I don't know. I think his ACLs have just finished him, mate. I think he's finished. We criticised Semedo for his second half performance against Palace, but I think Johnny was even worse than that against Leicester, and it's very worrying on that right side, and just so easy, mate. And it was a very, very depressing afternoon.
A lot of people were saying, and I think they probably had a point in part, that it was some of the better football that we probably played this season, ironically, on the back of the 4-0.
Weirdly, yeah. Like I say, first 8 minutes for the goal, and our heads did drop. So for large portions of the game later on, we didn't really do much. But certainly the first opening moments and the beginning of the second half, we showed a bit of promise. But again, it's all right passing it about, but then once we get to that final third, you just never think we're going to put the ball in the net. It's as simple as that. Pedence's chance, great dummy by Costa. It comes to him. You just know he's going to snatch at it and try and welly it. Whereas we need someone with a bit more composure who's just going to place it into the corner, and that's just what we're lacking completely. And it was just a horrible afternoon. And to top it off with, obviously Maddison's goal was good, but when Vardy obviously taunts the North Bank with his celebration as well, and just I don't know what's going on, mate. It's just all in the depressing state, isn't it?
Steve Walton Wolf in the comment section, we just lack confidence. Neil says, hi guys, you have to remember we've been unlucky with injuries and not scoring with the amount of decent play we've had. I think Neil makes that point, Harry, and was it 61% of possession? Obviously, it does depend what you do with it, but it's not like Wolves didn't have the ball.
Yeah, we had the ball. Like we said, we had chances, but even Collins come out after the game, didn't he, and said, it was abysmal. He feels ashamed to be a part of it. We've just got no, like, in defence, it was just so easy, and in the final third, we were lacking completely. We were awful all over the place. We were having shots that you just never felt like they were going to go in because they were miles out, a lot of them. And the chances we did get into the box, I think didn't Costa break a record for the most shots inside the box without scoring a goal, something like that. And still, he doesn't look quite at it either, does he? He still hasn't really hit the ground running for us. He shows like he cares. He gets the crowd going, but it's not happening for him at the moment, which is unfortunate.
In terms of people showing like they care, and you mentioned him already, and I think he was the only person to really come out at the final whistle, but also on Instagram, I think, after the game, saying, it was shambolic, and that was Neil Collins, shows that, at least somebody has a little bit of a fight and actually some guts to come out and do it, because, he's been through it last year with Burnley, and he stayed in the league, Burnley didn't. But these are the sort of characters that you need in this situation. And I know that I gave Ruben Neves a hard time on Friday on the podcast, saying that he's doing interviews saying that, he wouldn't be interested in going to Barcelona. I think Collins has shown more leadership, because it's easy being a leader when things are going well, but when things are tough, that's when you need people to stand up, isn't it, in the dressing room? People who are going to be influencing the Hugo Buenos of the world as they're sort of cutting their teeth in the Premier League.
Yeah, and Shifts just said Neil Collins. Did we say Neil? Nathan.
Oh, no, sorry, Nathan Collins.
Yeah, Nathan Collins. Neil Collins, but that's even worse. But yeah, mate, in terms of leaders, it was, I suppose, and I think Collins was one of the only ones who was apologising to the crowd after and things like that. And we've got rid of, obviously, Cody, Sace, Bolly, then Donker. You're kind of looking around and thinking, apart from Neves and maybe Collins, that where have the leaders gone? Like, there's no fight there at all, and it's concerning. And I put out that tweet, didn't I, mate, earlier on our podcast, about saying, honest, I can't believe I'm saying it, and I'm kind of eating my own words and admitting maybe I'm a bit wrong, but I want to go back to a back five, because we're just leaking goals for fun. We don't look like we're scoring anyway, so we may as well try and be solid at the back. I know we're going to have to probably have Totti Gomez in there with Kilman and Collins, but we ain't really got much of a choice than to try and do what we used to do under Nuno, which is mad to say, because obviously we're trying to get away from that style, and we've spent loads of money to try and get away from that style, but we're in a desperate time. And you mentioned leaders, mate, and there aren't many there, and a lot of players do not seem that bothered, and they don't seem like they've got the fight, because they know come the end of the season, or come January in Neves' case, they're probably going to be leaving anyway, a lot of them, especially if we go down.
A lot of it seems to be spilling in to the fan base who would normally be going. So I picked up on a tweet from Jason J 1987 on Twitter. He's very, very good value normally. And he tweeted, I think it was on Monday morning. So he said, so yesterday I got up and got ready to go to football, had my train booked, was about to leave and saw the weather was horrendous. Put off leaving for 5 minutes, which became 10 and then 20 until it was too late. Really, I didn't want to go. So we just got back into bed. And did you ever think that Wolves in the Fosun era would be making fans, literally think twice about going when everything's ready to go? Your trains are booked, you've got your tickets and whatever. I could never have imagined it really being like that under Nuno. They were poor games. I always think of that Brighton game off the back of being in Europe and then going obviously into the pandemic and stuff. So be careful what you wish for in that sense. But it does seem that more and more people are sort of going, oh no, I'll give it a miss this time round. And to be fair, it wasn't even like this game was on TV.
And we discussed it the other week. We're finding it a bit of a chore at the moment to make our way to games, and with the decisions that are being made by Jeff, Scott Sellars, and all the rest of them, which I'm sure we'll get onto, and seeing that some of the players don't seem that bothered, it is hard to go, and especially with the lack of goals being scored. At the end of the day, it's an entertainment business, isn't it? And yeah, we always go and watch Wolves. We will, it's in your blood a bit, isn't it? It's a tradition, but it's hard to go, and it's a chore to go. And I mean, some of the away fans I went down to Palace, I felt sorry for them. Like, mate, you just don't want to do it, do you? There's no excitement there, and I agree that tweet the lad put about, I'm just going to stay in bed. I'm sure a lot of Wolves fans feel the same at the moment. And if it carries on, that waiting list is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller for a season ticket.
And just a caveat on JC did reply saying by 11 a.m. I was really annoyed with myself as I've never missed a game before without a good reason. It's usually the highlight of my week, and every week revolves around Wolves. It's a sad state of affairs that this team has me feeling like this. I will be back for Brighton. So let's have a look at Scott Sellars very quickly before we go on the 5 at the back point, Harry. Somebody tweeted a picture of his tactics, which I think were either on a whiteboard or a collection of printed out football pitches. Shambolic, I think, is kind.
Yeah. Well, when the story kind of first broke from the Express and Star podcast, Liam Keane, wasn't it? He was the first one to point out that Sellars is sat in the stands with an earpiece in, giving instructions or just being an extra set of eyes for Steve Davis, because obviously we're lacking on coaching staff and things like that at the moment. And then Tom, obviously, his season ticket is right behind that area, and he confirmed it. And then there's a bloke who took the picture, which is probably the picture we're using now on the thumbnail for the podcast, where they heard him making decisions about substitutions, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. But what's annoyed me a bit as well is that unless Steve Davis is lying, because he come out after the game and said, no, I make the final decisions. Is he lying? Is that not true? Is Scott Sellars not actually involved? They need to be more clear with us, don't they? Because the fans are getting really angry, chanting in the stands, saying Scott Sellars make a sub, like jokingly. But they need to tell us what's going on, because the bloke, as we've discussed before, has not covered himself in glory with some of the decisions we're led to believe he's been involved with. And now he's all of a sudden involved with tactics on the pitch. It's just incredible. Like, I just don't get it. And do you blame him? Do you blame Jeff Shea? I don't know, mate. It's just bizarre. I don't know what you think about it.
Well, the buck has to stop with the people at the top. I mean, if you're going to sack somebody, and fair enough, I think everybody backed the sacking of Bruno Lage, but it was, I think, always on the basis that you have a plan. You have a plan A, and we don't have a plan A, and we certainly haven't had a plan B after Lopetegui said no. We need a director of football. You know, you look at what Newcastle are doing. Obviously, they have the money to spend, which makes a difference. But they're not buying superstars at the moment. They're not spending silly money on players. I think the most they spent was for was it Isaac, which was 60 million, something like that. It's a lot of money, but it's not Man City money. It's not going into the hundreds of millions of pounds. You know, not buying Jack Grealish or the next superstar. And is it Dan Ashworth at the top, moved from Brighton from memory, pulling the strings and getting the transfers in that provide harmony within the squad, and they're working as a team. I mean, I watched them at the weekend and they were superb against Spurs. Really, really good. Especially when you think this time last season they were looking at relegation potentially, and how far they've come. It does annoy me to see people like Sven Botman, who we've been linked with for about a million years, doing well and contributing as well. But I think you need the structure, and we don't have that.
And just I know the Talking Wolves did the Sace interview, didn't they? And what he said's come out, whereas he was like, he wanted to stay. Bruno Lage wanted him to stay, but then Jeff and Scott were like, nah, mate, and just offered him like a terrible deal. So, and there's a few. I mean, Cody was on TalkSport again today, and he said that they literally never said a word to him in the summer. He just like kind of worked out himself that he was going to be the one that's left out when they go to a back four. So he had to go to them and say, look, I'm not happy with this. But they just seem like they're dealing with everything in a really bad manner. And we always mention Jeff and Scott because they're the ones that we're led to believe who are making these decisions together. And Scott seems to be the one that Jeff trusts. And he's making, like with the Adama loan deal, that was terrible. Now we're led to believe that Neves might be going in January. And when the likes of Neves are seeing this, looking up at the hierarchy and what they're doing, treating Cody bad, treating John Ruddy bad, treating Sace bad, they probably treat Bolly bad as well. And the players aren't stupid. They see it and they're making the club rotten at the moment. And it's hard to get behind the team and connect with the club. We always mention Laurie Dalrymple, don't we, on this podcast? When he left, that seems to be the point where it started going a bit downhill, because when he was there, when Farewell was there, everything just seemed to be like a smooth running machine, didn't it? And then since they left, no connection with the club. Jeff turns up every so often doing an Ask Wolves, and you just don't know what's going on. It's absolutely bizarre, and something has got to change because those two are going to end up having to get the sack. I mean, someone put in the comments, I'll scroll back up, about Fosun, was the Express and Star, put that article out about they're struggling, they might be looking to sell. So if it carries on like this, they might look at it and think, well, it's not going very well. Are we just going to sell? No, we're just going to sell Wolves.
Thing is, though, if selling the club was on the agenda, then they've missed the boat. There's no, selling a relegated Championship side and selling the side that's just finished 10th in the Premier League. Those are two completely different price tags. They've missed the boat already in that case, unless they try and sell it in January, and then that just smacks of desperation. There's no plan again. So, you're looking at this investment firm that's, I think, from the comment section, has lost 50% of its value. Chinese-owned company, and investments, what is obviously classed for them as overseas, having dropped massively. This is a big problem. And I think for our WhatsApp group, Harry, when you've even got Jack, who's ever the optimist in terms of staying in the league, this is the first time that he was saying, oh, actually, I think this could be a relegation scrap. And I haven't seen anything so far this season to suggest otherwise.
Yeah, and when we would discuss things, especially early on, we would all laugh about the fact that we might get relegated. We'd joke about it. We'd be like, no, come on. We've spent 100 million, the quality of players we've got. Yes, we've had a few injury problems, but there's no way this team can go down, even if it's a bit disjointed and we can't really get going. But we're at this point now, and with the added problems of what they've done with the managerial situation, getting rid of Bruno Lage with no idea, like you said earlier, now everyone's worried. And now, especially with the way before, I think to get absolutely dicked like that against Leicester, is when people are going, oh no, like we are in trouble. We've got Brentford and Brighton to come up. If we don't win any of those, we could go down. And when the players on the pitch are starting to show like they've got no fight and they don't care, it's a big, big worry. And what is the future of Wolves if we go down? Because I got no idea, and it don't look good, does it?
No, I mean, so Neil in the comments at 7:46 says, tell the players they aren't going anywhere if we get relegated, and maybe to play in the Championship might get a bit more fight out of them. I mean, to be honest, Neil, no, in our hierarchy, they probably put relegation clauses in there thinking it was never going to happen. They'll just be on their bike anyway. But I think going down now and potentially losing the owners and the backing that they have provided, in fairness, over time, it's not like they haven't spent any money. It's been poorly invested sometimes. We've got a £36 million striker out on loan at the moment. I think I would. Do you not think that would be it? That would be Championship for a generation.
Probably it would be. It's not as bad as when we went down back in the day, but it's starting to get to that point where it's getting really toxic, isn't it, in and around the fan base and that. So it could be one of those where everything just falls apart. The owners want no interest, and we're down there for a while. But I just want to say, Sam, we didn't touch on it too much last week. We kind of skipped over the Nuno thing. So when we got linked with Nuno, bit of a controversial one, but all of us in the group chat were like, yeah, let's get him. Just because I know we were gutted when he left. I know me and you were when he left at the time. Yes, it got stale. It probably was time to move on. But what you got under Nuno was an identity, and you always felt like, well, maybe not the last season or so, but you always felt like we could beat any team. And we need that now. Like we said earlier, I would go 5 at the back on the weekend. Yeah. I would just go back to what we know, hit teams on the counter-attack just to survive. So bringing Nuno back would have given us that. He'll keep us up doing what he does. Yes, it's going to be boring, but at least we're going to get results and not be losing every week. So would you entertain that, Sam, if they brought that back round and said, right, let's go and get Nuno? I know it's not going to happen, but
I definitely would. I mean, to be honest, I at the time that he left, I thought it was the wrong decision, and I'm on the record saying that I didn't think it was the right decision because the plan to bring another manager in wasn't there. The managers that I think the caliber that Wolves should be looking to appoint weren't available. They're never going to really spend the money on compensation. They're going to dip into the Portuguese league, which is where they've gone for their players. But was there something? I think Jack sent a tweet through saying that something like his background staff, they wouldn't pay for his background staff to come in. Or
yeah,
it's
rumor
it's a large group of players, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
large group of staff.
the thing is, obviously, we don't know what to believe. But there was one rumor that Nuno didn't even get an approach in the first place. But there was also that he did. But then the club said to him, "No, we're picking what coaching staff you're bringing back. You're not having your old staff." But it's what can you believe that? We don't know if that's confirmed. But with what's going on with Scott and Jeff and that, I believe anything, to be honest.
What do you think the difference is between Villa and Wolves, Harry, aside from the Villa board are making the Wolves board look like a bunch of amateurs at the moment? Going out, sacking Steven Gerrard, thrashing Brentford 4-0 the game after he's sacked, and then they go and get Unai Emery in straight away. And I don't think there was even a week between the sacking and the appointment.
Yeah, well, I'll get this comment up. He's saying there's no outstanding candidates left, and then Villa go and do that. So it's just bizarre, mate. You start to think with Jeff, does he actually know what he's doing? He's appointed Nuno, who obviously was a great appointment, but before that, Zenga failed, Lambert failed, Bruno Lage has failed. Can we trust the bloke to make the correct decision with a manager? And I think because he got Nuno and it went well, and we had a successful time, I think the fact that it was going well got to his head a bit, and I think he was wanting to make all the decisions. That's why we got rid of Dalrymple. That's why we got rid of Farewell. And he just got people in and around him who would just agree with him and not question his decisions. So I'm very worried that Jeff Shee is the man who's going to be making the managerial decision. I probably think they're waiting for Lopetegui to become available. That's probably why he said, look, we'll wait until 2023, give it Davis, and then they're probably hoping that Lopetegui will take the job in January, which is very risky.
It's not enough time.
Yeah, I would get someone in now. I mean, Dyche was on Monday Night Football that made me get him in, but I think he's linked with the Leeds job, isn't he, if Jesse Marsh gets sacked? But would you take Sean Dyche?
I would.
Is that desperate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's absolutely desperate. Yeah. I haven't known a more desperate situation for during the Fosun era, put it that way. I saw a tweet from JG on Twitter, and it said, I remember going to games believing we could beat anyone. That's not even an exaggeration. And it was off the back of the Wolfpack Howlers tweeting. Remember these type of tweets from Bet365 like they were yesterday, and it's went to Northern Ireland, 1, went to Armenia, 1, went to Italy, 1, went to Turkey, 1, went to the Etihad, 1, went to Slovakia, 1, away days, Wolverhampton Wanderers style, and picture of Nuno. And that seems like a lifetime ago since, you've seen all these stats about counter-attacking and the goals and the giant killings, and you just think, what has happened?
Yeah, and I think Nuno was what's the term? He did so well, and then it come back to bite him on the ass when we had a bad season, because we were all like we were all unhappy with a 13th place finish. It was boring to watch, don't get me wrong, but I'll tell you what, you take it now, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So it's one of those be careful what you wish for moments, which it's a bit hypocritical and a bit, I don't know what the word is, because at the time, you probably listen back to the podcasts, we did want Nuno to stay, but we were slagging off the football every week. Let's not get it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But like Shiv said in the comments, Dyche will play Nuno-esque footy, but isn't Nuno, so get it done, because going back sometimes is probably the wrong thing to do, isn't it? But we just know that would be a safe option. So I think I would take Sean Dyche. And I miss the Nuno days now. Obviously, you look back with fond memories. There was boring moments, like you mentioned the 0-0 against Brighton. We always struggled to break down teams we should have been beating. But it's the magical moments he brought us, and I mean, I want it back now. And fans are moaning on Twitter saying we shouldn't have got rid of Cody. I still think the Cody thing, although it's horrendous that we've loaned him out and the option's 4.5 million. Again, Scott Sellars is behind that decision apparently, but I still don't think he. I think it was time for him to move on, but I just think they should have kept the Sace or Bolly or even both, and maybe even Dendoncker. Don't get rid of them all at once. It was a bit like we needed another defender to stick around because the Dawson deal fell through. So it's just all these decisions, mate. It's coming back to bite us on the arse now, and so if we don't sort it out, the worst is going to happen.
Let's have a look at the 5 at the back. I mean, you put a team out social media today, and I would say probably 99% of the people that saw it and interacted with it said, yeah, do it. So just run through that very quickly, and then we'll obviously talk more about Brentford, because this is the team that you want to start.
Yeah, so the team I've said, it's one of those. So when we used to play under Nuno, obviously we played the 5-3-2, and you think back to that second half against Man City when Adama got the 2 goals. That was like obviously a magical moment. So I was just thinking of that, him and Costa up front. You've got to have Totti, Kilman, and Collins as the three because you're not going to play Yerson, are you? Bueno left wing back, Semedo right wing back. That's a controversial one. People were saying, can we not go into the under 23s and get someone because Johnny and Semedo are so bad? But the three in midfield, Matthias Nunes, Neves, and Babacar Traore. And I think the tactic is, mate, just soak it up. And I put on the tweet, desperate times result in desperate measures, and it's right, isn't it? Yeah. And like you said, everyone was, a few people come at, like, criticise a bit, saying, oh, so you want to go back to the Nuno way. And as we've discussed, because we're in trouble. And some people will say they'd start Guedes instead of Adama because Adama's not a striker. But if you're playing on the counter, I'd probably rather have Adama up there for me. Some people said they'd start Hwang over Costa. Would you do that, Sam, or would you give Costa another?
I wouldn't have Hwang anywhere near the starting 11 personally.
And obviously, I think Moutinho has been poor, so that's why I wouldn't have him in the three. But yeah, mate, it's. I think it's the way to go. And if we'd have said back in the summer, this would be the discussion we're having now. At this point, I'd have been like, no way, come on, the four's going to be okay. But we're playing the back four. We're not scoring goals. We're shipping goals in for fun. At least try and get that base and get that solid back line again, hopefully.
And obviously, Bournemouth away up next. Both teams pumped 4-0. Brentford, pumped 4-0 as well. So, how do you think this one's going to go?
Well, it's a big game, isn't it? And we won there. We won away there, didn't we? 2-1 in January, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, and Moutinho scored. I think we played 5 at the back that day, and Totti Gomez was in there. So if we do that, hopefully it's a repeat. But it's a tough game. Obviously, Ivan Toney, unbelievable player. We've got to try and keep him quiet. He always seems to pop up with a goal like he did that day against us. And it's huge pressure again, mate. Absolutely huge pressure. And we need a lift. We can get a result there. They're 11th in the league. They're beatable. But with the attitude of our players and the way we've played lately, I'm not confident. I don't know about you, mate, but I am not confident to getting the victory.
No, I look at the fixtures now and I just think, especially between now and potentially a new manager coming in January, it's just, you look at it and you go, I actually don't know. Because where we should have been picking up 3 points earlier this season, you would have nailed on Bournemouth away, should have been 3 points. And if Raul had finished that chance, we wouldn't even be talking about it, would we? Fulham at home, you're thinking you need to be, for me, if you're an established Premier League team, you do need to be looking at beating promoted sides at home. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. I think 5 at the back is the way forward. There's that gap now, isn't there, that's starting to open up. So Leicester up to 17th, 11 points. Leeds, Wolves and Nottingham Forest all on 9 between them. And the thing that is going to probably count as an extra point at the end of the season is the goal difference, because our goal difference is minus 13.
Well, they got smashed, didn't they? Was it Villa beat Brentford 4-0 the other day?
Yeah, but their goal difference is okay. To be fair, Brentford minus 3. They seem to do okay on the scoring front. So Forest minus 15. Bournemouth is the only other one minus 15 as well. So third worst goal difference in the league.
I completely forgot about this. Shivs, but it was the drone game. Remember that when the drone delayed it for like 15 minutes? Brentford away.
Who got one chalked off as well? Was it Traore?
I remember the one thing I do remember from that game was Totti got sent off and they overturned it, didn't they?
That's it.
Traore had an offside, didn't he? Which was an offside, but just shows. I mean, a lot of the players that played that day are still knocking about now. So hopefully we can put the same performance. People are saying in the comments, Brentford are a different animal at home, be really tough. I agree with that. But I just feel like if we can shithouse it a bit, and but that's the thing. I say be good at the back, but Collins and Kilman, although they were really good before Collins got suspended, they've looked really shaky, haven't they?
Yeah,
lately.
Yeah,
so Totti's a bit like hot potato when he plays. I think he's done okay, but he's a bit raw, isn't he? And a bit, I don't know how to explain it, but like he makes me nervous when he's on the ball. So
Ben says I'll be surprised if you get 1 point before the World Cup, and those games obviously Brentford away on Saturday, and then we got Brighton at home on the 5th of November, and then it's Arsenal at home on the 12th, which is the last game before the World Cup, and there's obviously the third round cup game between Leeds in between that, but unfortunately we don't get any points for those. So 3 games. How many points do you think?
You're going to I think you should give a different score prediction again, Sam. You had 5-0 Wolves last week. What's your prediction for Brentford?
I think 3-1 Brentford. I'm going to start actually.
Really? You think we're going to score?
We could do our own goal for Brentford. What about you?
If we play 5 at the back, I'm going to be positive because there's a lot of negativity around our fan base. I'm going to go with my heart and say we're going to scrape a 1-0 Costa 88th minute header, but they're going to have like load of chances. I'm going to be hanging on. That's my dream prediction. Can you believe I'm dreaming about scraping a 1-0 win away at Brentford?
That's what it's come to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh dear. There's been some fixture changes. Actually, so the Villa game, which had been originally scheduled Bank Holiday Monday, which is the 2nd of January, that's been pushed back 48 hours to the Wednesday night. So it's an 8 p.m. kickoff now, just to allow a little bit more time for recovery after the World Cup. First round of fixtures on Boxing Day, obviously Wolves got Everton, as we just mentioned then. So I think is it the Manchester United game, New Year's Eve? That will now kick off at an earlier time, so that's at half 12, as that's on BT Sport. Let's go from the real world of football to the fantasy world of football. Harry was desperate to talk about this because apparently his team is doing well, and I think we need to both grow up, don't we, Harry? Because I think we've got more or less the same team name. You are into your nan, and I'm also into your nan, spelt slightly differently. But you're top of the league, 820 points.
Yeah, so we do this every year, and we used to give out prizes, but we don't anymore. But I thought we might as well mention it, mate, and people listening may or may not be in our fantasy league, but 820 points top. Ted Bayliss in second is obviously Dan Bayliss' relative. Yeah. But, mate, I do this every year, and I always usually give up after a few weeks, but I'm literally top of every league I'm in. I am... out of all the Wolves fans on the app, so I reckon there's probably about 100,000 Wolves fans who play it, probably, do you reckon?
Is it?
Around that ballpark?
Yeah,
I'm 25th. I'm 25th out of all Wolves fans on it. In the world, which they've got to be, how many do you reckon in the world play the FPL? Millions?
Millions, yeah.
I'm in 3,510th.
Oh my God! Look at you.
I'm starting to get to the point, Sam, where I might actually win the whole thing. So
yeah, but knowing your luck, you'll win the Wolves one. You'll win a season ticket for next year in the Championship. That's a drawback.
But what it is every decision I've made is just I've just got so lucky. Like I put Almiron in before anyone else did, type thing. Just fluke. I've had Zuma in. They won 1-0 the other day. He scored. Obviously, everyone's got Haaland, but captained him at the right time. It is a fluke, but just thought I'd bring it up.
Okay, so who's in your team?
So my last team, I got 82 points. I think that's another thing. I've always got more than average, which obviously I think you've got.
That's for the first time in your life, mate. That is.
Yeah. So my team at the moment: Sarr, Trippier, Zuma, Gabriel, and White. 2 Arsenal defenders. Obviously, they've done well, haven't they?
I'm shocked you're doing so well with Sarr in goal.
He saved a penalty against Fulham, and obviously saved a penalty against Forest, which was loads of points. Eze, I put him in the other week. Obviously, he scored against us. Yeah. He scored the week before that. I've got Adama, who obviously scored against Palace. De Bruyne, Andreas, who scored for Fulham. I've got Almiron, who come in for Darwin Núñez, Haaland and Kane. So basically what I'm trying to say to you, Sam, is if Jeff Shee is listening, you've found your new director of football or manager if you want it.
Yeah, you've just got to spend 500 million on that on Harry's team. I've done the classic, which is like pick the names you know. Completely the opposite to what you've done, to be fair. So I've got Edison in goal, Trippier, Ben White, Van Dijk, Bernardo Silva, Saka, Rashford, Milner, Kane, Haaland, and Jesus. Nice. It's a team of big names. I haven't used that yet.
I used
it.
No,
still got. You haven't used my wild card yet. Would have used that in probably week 3 normally. So doing well on that front. But yeah, let's see what happens at the end of the season. I hope if you can win the Wolves one, it'd be interesting to see what prize.
Oh my God, yeah. Do you get anything? I wonder if you get anything.
You must have. So they must
25th.
I'm
just excited because I've never done this well. Like I say, I usually give up, but yeah, I thought it was something positive to talk about because it was just
exactly, yeah. It's at least we're getting goals from
no one in the comments has mentioned they're in it, but yeah,
no, never too late to join. Perfect, right? Okay, well, we'll leave that there for this week. I mean, hopefully we can be a little bit more positive next week off the back of a resounding win away at Brentford. You never know, stranger things have happened. But we'll say goodbye to Harry Mansell.
Yeah, I just want to say, obviously, hopefully we're back to a full house next week. Sorry, it's only 2 of us this week. We have tried, haven't we, Sam?
Yeah,
we have
did.
tried.
We did tried. We talked at each
and
other.
yeah, let's hope it's a bit more positive as well after a win against Brentford. Cheers for everyone in the comments. Please subscribe if you haven't, because it'd be nice to get to 1,000 subscribers, wouldn't it? A bit of a milestone.
Yes.
And yeah, cheers everyone.
And it's a goodbye from me. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Ta-ra.